Let's see. So I'm just on the fly gonna make this video because I got something that's on my mind. It's been bothering me for a minute now. Maybe we can go over this a little bit because some of you guys may have thought about some of these same things before. Personally, I've seen a lot of death in my life. I've lost some people that are very close to me. My brothers, they're all dead. Close family members, cousins, stuff passed away. Everybody loses people, but there's something in particular that has bothered me about this, especially recently. Okay, so my girl, her father passed away, and we went up to Portland to see him and assess the situation. He had had a stroke, and so it's basically to the point, to make a long story short, that they're going to have to decide whether they're going to pull the plug on him, or my girlfriend's going to have to decide that whether she's going to pull the plug on him or if she's going to let him sit there and linger, which a lot of people don't like the idea of letting somebody just sit there and linger, because if they're going to go anyway, then what's the point of letting them stick around and suffer? And if you pulled him off of everything and came back, then he would still be suffering. So people are left with the choice to pull somebody off of life support. Now, what you got to do is you have to take a second to think about, what does that mean to pull somebody off of life support? All right, now here's the thing. Life support can be considered anything: a feeding tube, breathing machine, anything that's sustaining that person's life. In this case, it was a breathing machine. But you see cases like the case with Terry Schiavo, or a lot of cases where people are simply on food and water, a feeding tube, and you pull that, because if that person can't speak for themselves, then somebody else has to do it. Now, that person may very well be in a situation in which the best thing would be to do to let them go, whether it's a feeding tube or what the form of life support is. However, when it's a feeding tube, you got to think about, what does it mean? Because now starvation could take up to 2 weeks, and it could take several days to die of dehydration. And so that person that you're trying to, the whole rationale for pulling away the life support is to decrease their amount of suffering. You want to keep their suffering minimal. You're trying to stop their suffering. It's somebody, in the most ideal situation, it's somebody that you love very much and care deeply about, and you don't want them to have to suffer. You would like to keep them here, but that would be selfish of you, so that you've chosen to let them go. So you're pulling life support, and whether even a breathing machine, in this case, it could take up to weeks for that to happen, for it to slowly go down, and for it to slowly happen. And it could happen quickly. But, and then I flash back. Like I said, I've lost people. In the case of my youngest brother, who was older than me, he was 30 years old at the time he died. He had ALS, and the only thing that he had on him was a breathing machine. And so the option was his choice, because he was still cognizant, his brain and everything was functioning correctly. So he decided that he didn't want to live like this anymore, and that he wanted to be taken off the life support, which was the breathing machine. Okay, me, my father, my sister, everybody involved, we all had to come to grips with the idea that this was his choice, and that we couldn't be selfish to take it away from him. So I went up there. I was there when it happened. I was actually in the room. I didn't particularly want to be in the room, but my brother Scott had asked me. He said, "Justin, are you going to stay in the room right now? It's his last wish," and this is my brother. I mean, what can I say? I can't tell him no. So of course I sat in the room, and this didn't go down as planned. The doctor came in the room. We were all in the room. All kinds of family in the room. And they pump him up full of morphine. They pull him off, and when they pull him off of the morphine, they pull the breathing machine, and he wakes up promptly. Starts, because he can't talk at the time. He's got a tube in his throat and everything else. He can't talk, and so the doctor puts him back on. Of course, me, everybody in the room say, "Oh, he's not asleep, he's not out. Stop." So they put him back on. And this goes on several times, to where I wanted to just stop it. But the doctor kind of took control at that time, said, "Nope, we got to do this." And it took it took a little while for this to be completed, and I felt like it was done poorly and that it was done in a horrible way. Like, for my brother to go like that, and for me and my whole family to be in there and to watch it, like, that wasn't peaceful. That wasn't what he was seeking. You know, he wanted some peace, and that wasn't it at all. And so I say all that to say this, and I'm just going to put this really bluntly. If you had a dog or a cat or some other kind of animal that was suffering, and you decided that you were going to put that animal out of its misery, it was time to put it out of its misery, and you tried to say, I'm going to starve that animal to death, or I'm going to pull that animal off to where it can't breathe anymore without giving it any kind of comfort, without helping that animal along in the process, you'd have people banging down your door. They'd be telling you you are no good, that you can't do this is cruelty to animals. All kinds of people would be flipping out, man. Yeah, we can do this to our loved ones. It's expected. It's the only way that you can let somebody that you care about go. You know, if I'm ever in those shoes, I would prefer just to go. And that's the thing is, you're going to be in those shoes. We're all going to be in those shoes one day. That's going to be every one of us. We're going to be in those shoes. So right now, when we see the people that we love dying and we don't like the way that they're dying, and I mean the way that they go out, and I'm not blaming the doctors here because they have to do with what's legally at their disposal. But we got to think about how we want to die if it comes to that point for us when we're in those shoes. And so that's the rant that I have right now that I want to go off about. This has been on my mind for years. I could go off on all kinds of other things, but we're getting up to the 6-7 minute mark right here, and I just kind of went off the cuff here, and I wanted to put this out there. I've said it a lot of times to a lot of people, but now I'm putting it out there publicly. All right, well, thank you for taking the time to listen to me, and if you agree with this, then, you know, go ahead and let me know. All right, thanks.